Perfect. Well, welcome everybody. This is what our third, fourth panel of the day. And so I want to welcome you. My name is Josie Jen Morgan. I'm the coordinator of the Pre-Health Professions program at the University of Arizona. And today, this is, again, one of our panels for our Health Professions Expo, the first time that we've ever done it virtually. Last year, we were physically on campus. We're very fortunate that a lot of our panelists can actually Zoom in from across the country. So if you've been with us on the previous panels, it's been really an exciting, I think, event in that we can bring talents from across, the university and also across the country. So this particular panel that we're going to be doing today is the Health Profession Diversity Panel. And so I want to welcome you on behalf of the ACE Center and the Pre-Health Professions Program, and also our ambassadors. And just to do a little plug, we are recruiting for ambassadors. That application is opened right now. So if you're interested, and our ambassadors have been a key component in this event. It's one of our signature events. You might have attended our fall event, which was Blast, also coordinated and really supported by our ambassadors. So if you're interested in doing that or outreach, our application is open right now. So I do want to welcome you today. So I want to go ahead and pass it on to our pre-health ambassador to start our program and read our Indigenous statement.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being in this call. Just to introduce myself, I'm Lady Elia. You can call me Lady. I'm a second-year undergrad student, and I'm also a pre-health ambassador. So I will start with the land acknowledgement for today. The University of Arizona sits on the original homelands of Indigenous peoples who have stewarded this land since time immemorial. Aligning with the university's core value of a diverse and inclusive community, it is an institutional responsibility to recognize and acknowledge the people, culture, and history that make up the Wildcat community. At the institutional level, it is important to be proactive in broadening awareness throughout campus to ensure our students feel represented and valued.
So with that, now we're going to go ahead and go into our panels. And so if our ambassadors will go ahead and introduce our panelists.
Okay, perfect. So I will be introducing some of our panelists for the Health Profession Student Diversity panel. So I would like to give the floor to you to introduce yourself, but we will start with Jasmine Worthy. Jasmine, are you in this call with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm Jasmine Worthy. I'm a first year veterinary student at the College of Veterinary Medicine. I came here from Tennessee, and my focus is aquatic and zoological medicine.
Thank you so much for being here today, Jasmine. Next up, we have Ariana Adams.
Hi guys, I'm currently in my car. I'm currently in Phoenix right now, shadowing my old vet that I used to work at the clinic, so don't be weirded out. I'm just gonna be here. But my name's Ariana Adams. I'm also a first year veterinary student at the College of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Arizona. Jasmine and I are part of the inaugural class, and my interest is in exotics.
Thank you so much, Ariana. Next up, we have Tatiana Jerome.
Hi everyone, my name is Tatiana Jerome, and I'm a current fourth year medical student at the University of Arizona, and I will be going into pediatrics.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. And next up, we have George Nguyen.
Hi everybody, I'm George Nguyen. I was a previous pre-health ambassador for Josie years back, but I'm currently a PGY1 here at U of A, Banner, Phoenix for internal medicine. Graduated from UA-CompP, so nice to meet you guys.
Thank you so much, George. And then we have Mark Andres Bigby.
And actually, Mark is unable to attend today, but I want to make sure that, and I think we might have missed on the schedule, Monique Crawford.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm here. I'm a first year medical student at the U of A here in Tucson. I originally actually got my degree as a nurse up at NAU in Flagstaff, and I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monique. And then finally, we have Jasmine Curry.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jasmine Curry. I am a second-year medical student at Oregon Health and Science University, and I graduated from U of A in 2018 with my degree in physiology.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. So now we will open this panel to some questions, if you have some questions for us or for the guest speakers.
We're going to go ahead and throw out one question and start the discussion. So in your experience in medical school or your different health profession, how has your background influenced or impacted you as a health profession student?
I can start. I think my background coming from a diverse community definitely helps me relate with patients easier than some of my classmates who don't have as much life experience. I think I have an easier time like going down to the not going down, but going to the patient's level and really communicating with them and trying to really listen and not dismiss anything they say. And I think that's helped me a lot with my communication skills.
I can go next. So I would say for me, I didn't really grow up in a super diverse area, but I've always had like the support and the access to resources to do what I want to do. My parents were very supportive of me and my dreams. So I think I just want to focus more on like basically getting those resources out to minority communities so that more kids are supported and doing what they really want to do. And instead of them like not being able to do it because they don't have the access or they don't see anybody that looks like them. Like I've never personally met a Black vet. I've only seen a couple on TV. So for me, that could be a really big setback, and I want to change that.
I can also answer. I think definitely I can relate to Jasmine a lot, especially on connecting with Black patients and Black children in the hospital, especially some kids who like, are like, oh my gosh, I've never seen a Black doctor. You look like me. And so that's been really kind of inspirational for me. Additionally, I'll talk about like the other end of it, kind of the more difficult parts. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes, I have had to bridge the discussion of racism with patients, especially like within this last year. A lot of people want to talk about it. A lot of times it comes up, and then sometimes it's uncomfortable. And depending on the situation and how the patient or even colleagues or even other physicians have started the conversation, I kind of decide like, is today one of those days where we're going to have a very long talk, or is today one of those days where we're just going to focus on the medicine aspect of it? And I will say that sometimes you do have to have those uncomfortable conversations with people around you. And sometimes they're very receptive and sometimes they're not, and it is difficult. But what is nice is also having like maybe your friend on rotations or another person in the room come up and be like, hey, I appreciate you for what you said, or I appreciate you for, being here and taking that, whether it was good or bad, and just having those conversations of just like mutual respect and also like just encouragement to keep going, and regardless of whatever kind of situations occur.
And tagging on to Tatiana, especially even for myself as an Asian male, connecting to Asian parents is like instant connection. You really feel like you're one with the community, and it's a great honor and privilege to be able to take care of them. But then on the other side, I've had situations where, especially with faculty, if you guys are looking into like third and fourth year, doing your rotations, often the Asian Americans are often labeled as passive, very quiet, and you have to do a pretty difficult time trying to break that barrier, especially with your faculty, with your people who are grading you and things like that. So those are some things that, for example, that I had to face and kind of talk through with other mentees I've had in the past.
For me, I feel like my background has really kind of opened up what my passions are. So I grew up with very limited healthcare just because we were low socioeconomic status. We didn't really have access to care. So I feel like now that I am, even as a nurse, and now that I'm in medical school, I feel like I need to reach out to that community a little bit more and kind of make kind of educate in the sense that you can still access healthcare even if you don't feel like you have the resources. There's a lot of resources out there for people that feel like they don't have it. They just need to be exposed to that. So I feel like for my background, it's really kind of narrowed down what community or what patient population I'd like to work with in the future.
As far as for me, with my background, it was kind of a mixed bag. So I actually came out of undergrad in 2010. So there was a nice decade gap before I started professional school. But in between that, I did a lot of work within veterinary hospitals. I actually ended up in this field because of a lot of jobs that I was looking for in zoos and aquariums wanted a licensed vet tech. So it kind of threw me on the path of veterinary medicine. And like Ari said, there's like, I had never seen a Black veterinarian, probably until last year, maybe. But for me and my path, it's a little bit more difficult on my side. I think just because it's already a small percentage in the vet field, but there are practically no African Americans in aquatic medicine whatsoever, with the exception of one that I know of who is strictly marine mammal medicine. So on top of going into this field, I'm kind of specializing in one where I'm probably going to end up being one of the first in there. So it's kind of self-motivation, but also remembering that I'm paving the way for future veterinarians that might not think that can do aquatic medicine.
So, knowing about not being or maybe being the first or being limited, how has it been as far as like support? Who supports you? How do you get through this for people who may not understand? And then, definitely a lot of the questions are, how was it when you were ready to apply? How did you bring out some of these unique qualities that you have? Some folks, have the imposter syndrome where it's like, wow, you know what? I worked really hard, but I don't know if I can cut it. So can you talk a little bit about those type of issues?
I can lead on with that. It's been pretty difficult, but for the people that I do know in the field of veterinary medicine, they have been super supportive. And for my specialty field, I've actually been very adamant in like cold calling through email. So I've actually been sending emails to veterinarians that have been in the field for a while that I'm trying to get into. And it's actually helped me because they're actually very responsive and I've kept in touch with them. So they've been very supportive in giving me advice along the road. My background is actually in marine biology. And so I'm still within a field where I was kind of the only person. So
Wow.
I'm used to it. So it's kind of weird being the only one is kind of the comfortable space, I would say, because I'm just used to it. But I would like to see more. But on the flip side, I would say it does. I do get frustrated sometimes when I go looking and there's still no one that looks like me. Like, I appreciate the help and the advice, but there's something else. There's like in the back of my mind, there's also that other piece of I really wish there was someone out there that looked like me. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for me, I would say. But all of my all the people within my circle have been really supportive, and it did come up along the way of how I got involved in it. And some people are surprised when I tell them I scuba dive and I've done all this, and that's how I got into it. And there have been times where I've gone back home and some people are like, oh, have you given up on the marine biology thing? I was like, no, it's just taking me a little longer, but it keeps me going with the amount of people that I have supporting me compared to maybe like the one or two are like, hey, have you switched up yet?
Yeah, I can continue on that too. So for me, my biggest support system is definitely my parents, like my family. They made sure that nobody, regardless of who it was going to stop me from doing what I wanted to do. And they gave me and provided me with those access to resources that I needed to continue and basically discover if this was really what I wanted to do. The vet that I'm currently shadowing right now this week on our break, she also is a support system for me. I would say like when she found out when I first started working here a year and a half ago, she was very open to teaching me. There was no judgment, like there was no hesitation on her part. She just automatically was like, here, this is what you need to learn, like just so you have an idea of what you're getting into. Like she was very open arms for me. But just, like Jasmine said, there isn't anybody for me to shadow that I know of right now that looks like me. And there's just an aspect of that we're missing, I think, to get that personal aspect of like what it's like to be a Black veterinarian, because it's so the amount is so little, and there's probably none really on this side of the country. And you're just really missing that. I just have to accept the fact that people are going to look at me differently. But when I walk into a space where I'm trying to learn, I try to not make that like that's how they're looking at me. I try to use, like I'm a person who wants to go to vet school. Like that's really what it is at the end of the day. So are you willing to teach me or not? And I think that that's kind of the mindset that we have to have walking into spaces, is like we know what we look like and we know who we are, and we know that people are going to see us that way, but me coming to learn should just be me coming to learn. And I think that that's also helped. I haven't had to experience too much racism right now, but I know that's going to change as soon as I become a doctor, because for certain people that level and having that high of a degree is almost like not where I belong to them. Being a receptionist at the time and being a tech at the time probably was okay, but this will change a lot of things for me. So it's just really trying to find people who can help guide us through that.
I wanted to piggyback off that and ask a question. So I was wondering, I know that sometimes when people see somebody from a different background from them, for the first time especially, they unintentionally thrust that person into the spokesman for that ethnic group, racial group, whatever. And I was wondering, as a person who plans to go to med school and become a doctor, does it interfere with your responsibilities as a student first, doctor first, when you are thrust indirectly into that responsibility of representing your race or ethnic group in a positive light while educating others as far as the disparities within your group?
I can start off with that. So currently I'll be the only Black female graduating with my current class. And there has been times where I have been contacted to take part in something or lead an event. And it has been difficult sometimes where I've had to kind of just tell them like, I'm sorry, I'm overwhelmed and I need to focus right now on the certain things I do have on my plate in order to accomplish those things well. And I cannot be this leader, do this event or do this thing, because honestly, I will not have the time to do it correctly. And I try to help, find other people from other classes, or there's 2 other Black males in our class. So I try to, reference them. And sometimes you do have to tell people like, hey, this is too much and I need to really focus on my academics. Because at the end of the day, I was thinking, I'm here and I need to focus on my schoolwork and I want to be involved in things. And I have been involved in many things, but you can't be involved in 60 different things and still do well in school and still learn everything that you need to do. Medical school, all these professional schools is very difficult. And sometimes you do have to say no, and that's okay. And you have to learn to be okay with saying no. And it is difficult, but I think just learning as to what you need for your mental health and for your education, and then just deciding how much you can take on in addition to that.
Continuing on that, sorry, I totally agree. I think it's very important to recognize minority tax and just to really look at each thing you're involved in and say, does it bring me happiness? Is it like worth my time? And you are doing a lot of other things like last summer with all the racial upset. I just felt like SNMA at my school, the Student National Medical Association, I just felt like we got bombarded and really had to take a step back and say, no, you know, we're students first and we need to just focus on school.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. Doing like Chinese New Year events, Lunar New Year events for my school back in the past, usually around this time is when things start popping up. But definitely, if they're, work with your administration as well, especially when you have, tests, exams, rotations that you want to focus on, but the school is really trying to set forth, a specific event. A lot of the admins are very supportive of you, and will help you in like certain administrative tasks if you want to help lead in terms of recruitment for different spokespeople, have a lunch talk, things like that. So there's always certain different things you can always do outside as well, but absolutely within your range of like emotional tax that you can give.
I think it also really just depends like how much you want to contribute. I think you really have to decide, is it something that you really want to focus on? If you're not really focused on like that aspect, then, like they said, like, don't feel free to say no, feel free to say like, I really need to focus on what's at hand here. For me personally, I do like participating in those events. Clearly right now with COVID, there's not a whole lot of them, and having them online like this makes it a little bit easier to do. And I think that for what Jasmine and I like were saying about being like, there's no Black veterinarians, like less than 2% in the veterinary field is Black. So for me, I personally think that it's important to participate in events like that, to really like, so that other people who look like me can see that there's, that we're here and that we exist, and that they shouldn't just give up, and that we can provide those resources and that access to somebody that could be a mentor for them. I look forward to things like that, and I think it's really helpful. But I haven't hit the point yet where I felt like it's overwhelming. But I think you really do have to make that clear decision. And it's like, how are you going to do it, and how much of it are you going to do, depending on what's available. We're only in the inaugural class, so there's only 6 or 7 of us in our class. So there's not too many right now for us, like all these events, to do anything right now. But that could change later, and we just really have to talk with each other and with ourselves on what we want to focus on.
Yeah, and I will say, for me, from my perspective, I will give you kind of like the flip side of that. I come from an area where my family is maybe the only Black family in the area. And so where I used to work in academia, there was not an emphasis on minorities. So I started getting very comfortable with making sure that they knew someone was there. Because when everything happened with George Floyd and all of these other issues that were going on, it was never addressed. It was swept under the rug and no one wanted to address it. But I and one other faculty member, which we were maybe the only African Americans there and the few African American med students, we're trying to make sure that we did something to put awareness out there. And so they were kind of forcing the hand of people at that university to recognize it. So on the flip side of it being overwhelming, at least for me, I did make an effort to make sure that that was something that wasn't swept under the rug and that they paid attention to it, even though it did not directly affect them. So it can go both ways. But just saying you can have it 2 different ways. It can be overwhelming, or you could be in that situation where people choose not to discuss it and want to avoid those uncomfortable situations. So from that perspective, we were ones that kind of pushed them to be like, just because it doesn't involve you, you need to be aware that you have students that this does affect.
So speaking of which, I know that there's about 3 HBCUs, maybe 4, as far as medical schools go. And because of that, it leaves me no options but to apply to other medical schools that are, primarily white institutions. So with that said, I was wondering, how do I go about determining if a medical school values diversity and inclusion versus just saying they do?
I think that's a really tough one to kind of answer because it really just depends. I think the big thing is that you should really trust your gut, and really look at the program. Like, I think the most important thing right here is your education and the education that you're receiving. So focus on like the education that they're providing, and then just making sure that you have a support system behind you to get you through whatever difficult situations or that you have. I haven't personally really experienced anything super crazy. I went to U of A for my undergrad, and I'm here for vet school. Diversity is not huge on campus, and just like every campus, they promote it, but we do our best as those people that make it diverse to spread that diversity well. So I think that you have to make that decision if you're comfortable being somebody as like a point of contact, somebody that people can go to as a mentor to do that. But really look at I would say, look for you and your education degree and what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I think that that's really a big part of it that needs to go into your decision is what kind of education they're providing you, and like what can you deal with being maybe the only Black student out of however many students.
I would
Yeah,
also
and
recommend.
oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to piggyback off of that, the education is important, but I would definitely recommend finding the medical school forums and talking to students, because they will be completely honest with you about how diversity is addressed and what measures they're taking and how they may have the students involved and the faculty and the staff.
Yes, completely agree with what Jasmine was saying. Actually, during my first year of medical school, I got an email from a student, and what she did was she looked through the SNMA website, and she saw who the leaders were at different schools, and she emailed them, or she emailed all of us and asked us like how was like diversity and how comfortable we felt at our different schools. And I thought that was really interesting. And I actually did the same thing when I applied to residency. It does take a lot of work and time, but that's something that if you're really interested in a program, but you're concerned, you can look for forums on like Reddit or something, look at their website and see if they have any minority affiliated clubs, or you can look at the SNMA website as well and look at who the presidents or who the leadership is in that club and email them directly and ask.
Another resource would be to reach out to the Center of Diversity and Inclusion and ask what support is available to students and just how they're supporting their diverse students specifically. I know we have a student liaison, and he'll actually reach out to students for you and connect you with like students.
And Monique, did you have something to say also? I think you.
Yeah, I think they pretty much summed it up. That's kind of what I was going to say. Just look at what clubs are already there, who's involved, what events are they hosting, reach out to you, the diversity and inclusion office. I know they're always, they're looking for people to reach out, and they're really, really nice, and they like to talk about the events that they do and what they like to promote for their students. So yeah, there's
And the
options.
U of A College of Medicine Tucson has a strong office. Dr. Victoria Moraine works very closely with the medical students, and it's a good office to get connected. And undergrads have opportunities to get involved with that office too, if you're interested. So.
And I think Lady has a question that came in through the chat.
Yes. So to continue the discussion, there's another question that was asked, and the question is, how and what do you do to rejuvenate yourselves through both a very difficult academic career, but then having to answer questions or deal with racism in your school and workplace?
I think this is stressed a lot at my school. Self-care, definitely eat well, exercise, but then also connecting with community here at OHSU. I reached out to the Native community, and I have like surrogate aunties out here in the Pacific Northwest, and I know like if I really need to, I can like go to their house, they'll cook me a meal. So that's great because I'm just only out here with my partner, and he's the only one I knew when we moved out here. And then also just connecting with your classmates. I think it's good just to like debrief. And then another option is to seek out a counselor. At our school, it is free for medical students to get a counselor, and it just helps with processing the day to day because it is very stressful and rigorous.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like I say, the most important thing would be too is like finding something that you thoroughly enjoy outside of class. Um, like something that really just relaxes you. Any hobbies? Like I go to the gym with one of my classmates 4 days out of the week, and then I really like to personally keep the weekends to myself. So maybe I'll spend Saturday trying to get a lot of my homework and studying done, and then by Saturday night, like and all day Sundays, the time I spend relaxing, talking to my family, and really just like resetting myself every week. I think the important thing too is like learning what battles to fight with certain people when you do experience racism or get questions about it. Some people are just genuinely trying to learn, and some are really just being rude and ignorant. And so you really just have to figure out what battles are worth picking. You get angry, you find a way to de-stress, and you just start over and you move on. You have to move forward from it. I feel like if we get stuck on it, like that's really what causes the excessive stress along with your education. So really focus on things that really make you happy, like genuinely, and stick with that.
Yeah, I'd have to say for me, I attempt to limit my screen time because due to COVID, my eyeballs burn and I have a lot of headaches from looking at multiple screens all day. So I attempt to limit the technology when I can. Um, I don't do a lot of, I'm not able to do a lot of working out. I have a 2.5-year-old, so I spend my time in between classes and during class running around with him. And so mine is a little bit, I have a tighter schedule, but I'm doing better to try and find some time to relax. So I do make sure, but thankfully, since I do have a toddler, make it a point to get out and go to the park. So that forces me to avoid the screen time.
Yeah, I think it's important to make time for yourself too and others. So I always schedule time with my husband. My mom just came down yesterday and she helped me garden a little bit for a few hours. But I think it's also important to just spend some time alone too with yourself and do something that you enjoy doing by yourself. So I'll go for a run, quick 20, 30 minutes, and it's just me and my music and I'm alone. And then also, you know, you still need those relationships in your life, but also just have a good balance between spending time with others and yourself.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Monique there. Usually on my days off, I'll usually spend time with, your own support system. They spend a lot of time supporting you. Usually day off is kind of my time to really be with them and support them in any, because they're people too. They need our support too.
I have another question. So just like I would want other people to understand my culture and the disparities that impacts it, I was wondering how can I go about learning about different cultures and the things that they go through to make myself a well-rounded and culturally aware provider in the future.
I think you have to look at like maybe what, like they said earlier, like what clubs the school has. Like U of A, we have a multicultural club started. So that's really like a minority group at the end of the day out of for our inaugural class. And I think that's really like what everybody celebrates and what everybody goes through. Like that's like a perfect way for you guys to have discussions and again, what was repeated before is reaching out to people and don't be afraid to ask questions and because as you as like already as a minority understand how it is for people to come at you with certain questions, so I'm sure like you're more comfortable in a way to know like how to ask something, how to approach something, and I know they can probably tell that you genuinely want to learn, and I don't think anybody will be afraid to help you with that. But look into clubs, look into starting a club with a group of minorities if they don't have it already, and find efforts to really support each other there.
I definitely agree. Talking to people and just having really personal conversations. I think this was something that happened a little bit more as my third and fourth year rotations started happening. Just having like really good, deep personal conversations and taking the time to meet different people. In medical school, you'll meet lots of different people, lots of different patients, and you can talk to them and have really honest conversations. Like, some people will have like little things by their bedside and it's part of their culture and they'll tell me about it and I'll learn about it in that way. Also, I like to dance, so I try to learn different dance styles. And in doing so, I meet a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. I particularly like to get salsa dance, and I've learned a lot about like salsa dancing, the different forms of salsa dance. I went to Winslow, Arizona, on the Native American reservation on one of my rotations, and I learned a lot about their culture just from talking to the physicians, getting involved in some of their like after school activities for kids. And so that was a really, really cool opportunity. So just having conversations and being open to opportunities as they come up.
Can you guys address some of the things, because knowing that a lot of undergrads are on this call or this panel listening to you, what things did you do that were uniquely different? Any summer programs? I know SMDEP in the past, research opportunities, because a lot of times students think everybody does the same thing. And so when we try to emphasize as pre-health advisors, do those things that are uniquely different or provide opportunities like summer programs like Blazer at the University of Arizona. What kind of things did you guys do as undergrads or before you were applying that really kind of complemented your application as you were applying?
Me personally, I pretty much tried to do anything I could to get hands-on experience, in whatever way that was. In high school, I was very active in like volunteer activities after school, and I had a part-time job. So I think that helped me with even getting into other undergrad. And then in undergrad, our advisors were pretty good at sending out like resources. If we didn't find them ourselves, our advisor sent out, oh, here's all these opportunities. So I did like wildlife rehabilitation, and it was like squirrels, rabbits, bunnies, birds, and we would rehabilitate them and send them back out into the wild after they were injured. And that was just something that I did once or twice a week out of my time. I interned at the Humane Society, started off as a volunteer, actually just like dog walking and things like that. And I just really did what I wanted to do, like malls and the different career paths that you can go in this career field. Like I think that's really what it is. And don't be afraid to branch outside of that too. Like I had my hands on with animals, but then maybe I would go, like I'm in a sorority, and so we would do a lot of stuff within the Tucson community. I taught a step team at a middle school, and we would do stuff with the homeless in Tucson and things like that. So I think you really have to branch out. Like don't be so like one centered. Like really do different things, because the more diverse your application is, play on words there. I think the more they're interested in like looking at what you have.
I did several programs. So I did Blazer, which was the Border Latino and American Indian Summer Exposure to Research. That was my first experience in research. And then I was able to continue in the lab throughout my senior year at U of A. And then during my senior year, I also did the pre-health experiential learning class where I got to shadow. And that was really my first shadowing experience. And like, it was very, very cool. Like I got to hold a lady's leg while she was giving birth. And that was just crazy to me. And then I did the Minneapolis Heart Institute Foundation Research Internship. That was how I first moved away from Tucson. And I did research out there for a summer. And then I participated in the YE's postbac program, which is targeted to American Indian and Alaskan Native students. And with that, I got conditional acceptance into OHSU, which is how I matriculated in August 2019.
I also was quite involved with a lot of different things at the U of A. So some of the things, I worked with the African Americans in Life Sciences group, Alice, really phenomenal group that's been growing exceptionally through the years. So that's just kind of making connections with different people interested in pursuing a health related profession. Like Jasmine, I also was involved in Blazer. So I worked in a research lab, and it's actually still on my CV, and some of that research did come up during my residency interviews. So it was pretty cool translational research experience. I also did SMDP, which I believe the name has changed, and Josie would know the new name, which I cannot recall.
It's SHPEP. It's a Summer Health Professions Education Program. And the application just closed and we had several U of A students apply. But yeah, it's gone through several renditions.
Yep.
I highly encourage anybody interested. They cover, I think, more now than medical school and dental school. And I think they even go into PA and PT school, if I remember correctly. But essentially, it's a program where you can travel to certain sites across the country and you'll spend several weeks there. A lot of it, they have funding as well if you're worried about like financial issues during that summer. But it was a wonderful experience to meet lots of different people from my background, other backgrounds, and then also make some connections in terms of like different medical schools. I went to the Rutgers site, and I actually still keep in contact with a lot of these people. We're all in medical school now or dental school, and we're all like texting each other like, oh my gosh, this is so stressful, or this is so great. So it's definitely been having like those lifelong connections has been very important and very supportive to me. Also, I did the shadowing class that Jasmine mentioned as well. That is also a great experience as well. I did my trauma surgery rotation. It was my first experience with an actual patient death. And so it taught me that I could handle this profession and that I should continue going on. So all those are really great opportunities.
And the patient experience internship, the application's open. Ethan runs it. So any U of A students interested, please apply. And it's a wonderful 2-semester rotation. You earn upper division credit. And our interns, fortunately, are actually on site at Banner. So they got COVID-19 vaccines and are back into the hospital, which is really cool.
Right. Any last questions from anybody? Any participant that wants to ask any, like I said, any last questions for our group?
If not, I would like our panel maybe, what are your words of wisdom or advice to students that are in the Zoom meeting right now? What would you want to tell them, or what would you wanted to know before pursuing the health profession that you did?
I can start. I think the first thing I would say is, I think everybody talks about the imposter syndrome, but I will tell you if or when you experience it, it is real and it's hard and it sucks, but you are where you belong. And as you go through this process, like no matter what, if you were on a wait list, I've seen people who have been waitlisted and now they're the top of our class. They are amazing, going to be amazing physicians. And so no matter where you are at this process, have confidence in yourself. You are going to get to where you want to go to. Just stay strong and stay focused, and don't listen to anybody else who tells you like, oh, I was told, I think early, one of my first 2 weeks in undergrad, that I should go to nursing school, and I'm graduating medical school. And so you can do whatever you want to do. Don't listen to anybody else. Just focus on your goals. And no matter where you are in life or no matter where you are in your journey, you can do this, and you need to just go forth and do it.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that as well. Don't let anybody tell you no. Like, And I would say that the biggest thing is patience, and timing. You know, we go through so many things to get where we are. And I had a high school counselor tell me that I didn't even have the money to go through vet school and that I probably couldn't do it. Like, you just really have to stay the course, not let people discourage you, especially if you're really passionate about it. But no, it's also okay to like stray away. And if you decide you don't like it, like, it's good, at least you tried and you know that you did it. And just know that when I applied for vet school, I went through it's called VEMCAS. And it's where you put in all your information for schools to have access to. You got to pay money for your application, supplemental applications. And then after a certain date, it closes and they send out your application. So I spent $1,300 on my applications just for them to say, oh, we need your transcripts from high school, like, because you took dual enrollment. And they didn't tell me till after the due date. So I paid all this money for my application just to not get sent out to anybody. So I was really upset. I was really beat up because I was like, I'm gonna have to wait another year to go to vet school. Like, I'm really upset. I was like beating myself up. And then a short few weeks later, U of A opened up their vet school application for their inaugural class. I got interviewed and I got in. Like, it really just, you have to know that once you get beat down, you got to pick yourself up. You have your support system to pick you up, to know that it's okay. Like, if you get a no, you're going to get 1,000 no's before you get a yes, but that one yes is really what matters. And then you take off from there.
I would say don't be shy and reach out when needed. I wish I would have looked at more resources when I was doing undergrad and trying to figure out application process, cost, things that people don't really talk to you about, that you're not really sure, timelines, applications, all those questions. There are plenty of people out there that are willing to help you through. Make sure that you reach out, seek those people out. Don't be scared of asking. If you think it's a stupid question, it's probably not. Just go ahead and ask it. And then most importantly, make sure you surround yourself with people that really believe in you and support you. I think it'll make it so much easier.
Yeah, really find your support system, your activity, take the time to do it, and so that you stay resilient. Life is so unexpected. When I get into my PG1, my intern year, who knew a pandemic would be the first thing that I kind of hit, right? So you never know exactly what you're going to be going through, but if you always have your support system, you have your activity that makes you resilient, you can get through anything.
I think some helpful advice I heard is, if you're having imposter syndrome, just remember, like, you and all your classmates, you're doing the same curriculum and you're making it through. So don't think like, oh, they're doing better than me. You don't know, you're all doing the same thing. And like everyone else said, really find your support system, and they help a lot. And reach out to them early if you're feeling down or need validation. Reach out to your mentor and they'll be there for you. And then really work with the pre-health advisors at U of A. Like, they really care and they just want to see you succeed.
For me, I'd say it's okay to be non-traditional. Like, that's one thing that I have accepted, being here and seeing like people turning 21 in my class, and I just turned 33 this past Sunday. So I would say that it's okay. Everything will happen in its own time, and it'll happen when you're ready. Because I realized that even if I had tried 10 years ago, I was not in the mindset to pursue vet school, nor did I have the mental capacity or maturity to handle it. And through my experiences, I'm better prepared now than I would have been a decade ago. So you may need time, and that's okay. So don't get discouraged. There's no one way to your goal. There's always going to be a second, third, fourth, fifth path. So don't get discouraged if you fail on one path. Failure is just a learning experience to help you grow.
Did we get all our panelists, or am I missing one? No, I think we got everybody, right? Okay. So, this brings us close to our closing time. I want to thank the panelists, and, it's a wealth of information. It's a long journey. I think what you heard today is that, having that support network, listening to the folks that have, accurate information. The average age of those that get into med school is 26, 27. They're not coming straight out of the university and going into these health professions. They want someone who really understands what they're doing and how they prepare for this. So we want to thank everybody for coming today. I'm going to pass it on to our ambassador to bring us to a close, but thank you to our panelists for taking the time out. We know you're all really busy, and the information you share today is just a wealth of information for those that are have been or going through your shoes that before you went into your health profession.
Perfect. Thank you so much to panelists for today, to Jasmine Worthy, Ariana Adams, Tatiana Jerome, George Nguyen, Monique Crawford, and Jasmine Curry. Thank you very much for being here and responding to all those questions. Next up, we have the health professions student panel at 5 p.m. Correct me if I'm wrong, advisors.
No, you're right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you everyone for joining this call and for being here. Thank you so much.